Oh, thank you very much, Caitlin. Kia ora, everybody, and welcome to our TENS webinar for today. Please be aware that this webinar is being recorded and it will be downloaded and uploaded up onto YouTube on the TENS channel later on, once we've obviously completed the presentation, so you can refer to it later as well. Welcome to Code Your Way Through the Curriculum, which is looking at unpacking the CT/DT progress outcomes, and we have the awesome Sarah Cooper and Katie Prokop here from Code Avengers. Now, I'll explain a little bit more about them in a moment, but first of all, we are going to start off today by saying a kara kia. You are more than welcome to say this along with us today if you wish. Maori ora kia a mātou, arehina mātou kia mātou mahi, ki mihi he huarahi mo te kaupapa o Mautaranga o Hangarau, a whina atu, a whina mai, ti po e here ne I a mātou, hui e taiki e. So kia ora everybody, and on behalf of TENS, welcome to our webinar today. My name is Sarah Washbrook and I am Deputy Chair on the TENS Council, so I volunteer my spare time helping people in technology education. My role and responsibility on the Council is helping and supporting with teaching resources and professional learning for teachers and students across the motu. Today with us, we are obviously exploring digital technologies, and we have two wonderful presenters here who I'm delighted to introduce today. So we have Sarah Cooper, who is the Senior Content Developer at Code Avengers. Has developed lots of primary and intermediate courses, and in fact that's probably how I know her, is actually through using some of the different courses in my own teaching in the classroom as well. Sarah is a bit like me. Not only is she called Sarah, but also she comes originally from the UK like I do, but moved to New Zealand in 2007, where she became head of digital technologies at a large high school for several years. Sarah lives in Southland and enjoys everything outdoors. I think most of us try to as well, but welcome on board and welcome to us today, Sarah. Alongside Sarah, we have Katie. So Katie is a content developer at Code Avengers as well, and has been developing learning resources, including, I think it says 40-hour year plans. You'll have to explain to me what those are. And lots of PLD content too. Katie comes from a primary school teaching background and has been in New Zealand teaching years 3 to 10, really in Nelson and Auckland region. Also is a South Islander. We've got the South Islanders here today, all on board, and enjoys not so much outside, more playing video games. So a little bit different, different background. Oh, but still likes going in and walking the dog. So we'll give you that. We'll give you that. So that's enough from me. And I would like to pass on to the ladies today. Thank you for presenting and enjoy the webinar.
Ona koutou katoa, ko Luxembourg te wanga, ko Tean te awa, no Ingarangi o Kutipuna, ke te noho o ki te ano, ko Sarah toko inawa, no rere, tana koutou katoa. So yeah, thank you for joining us here. We appreciate how busy teachers are, so thank you for giving us the time, and hopefully we can share, save you some time with lots of things that we're going to provide you with today. So my name is Sarah Cooper. I'm a senior content developer at Code Avengers. And as Sarah mentioned, yeah, I'm down the South Island. And yeah, I've written lots of courses. So yeah, if you have any questions about our courses or our lesson plans, do feel free to get in contact with me at any stage later.
Kia ora, Sarah. Tēnā koutou ko Pauranga hau te maunga ko Maitahi te awa no Brisbane aho, engare ko whakatū toku kāinga, ko Katie Prokop toku ingoa, nō reira tēnā koutou katoa. Sarah did a great job of introducing us both, so I don't really have a whole lot to add, just that having worked in primary school teaching for a long time, I decided to move to learning with adults. So I became a learning designer for tertiary courses, building online courses for Te Pukenga. And then also I've picked up climbing as a hobby recently too, so a bit of outdoor stuff. I work with the 40-hour year plan, work developing the 40-hour year plans, and I'm going to be demonstrating what kind of that looks like today. It's some resources to help teachers be able to teach digital technologies in their classroom. So we'll get a little bit more into that later. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Okay, so we have lots of exciting things in store for you. We've broken down today's workshop into 3 parts. So I'll be presenting the first part to unpack progress outcomes 1 and 2 for you. And through that, you will sort of learn what computational thinking is and how to teach it in an authentic way. And we'll explore some sort of computerized and non-computerized ways of doing that. Then I'll be passing over to Katie, and she's got lots to tell you all about digital storytelling. And she's going to share a really cool unit she's just recently finished writing called Code Your Own Adventure. And she'll be taking you step by step through the project workbook and sharing some exemplars with you. And then towards the end of the webinar, we're going to do a little demo of Code Avengers and show what our company can offer for you. So that will include, as Sarah Washberg alluded to, the 40-hour sort of year plans we have, lots of lesson plans that we've been developing for the past year. And we'll sort of show you how you can sign up and easily access those. And then I'll be going through and giving a demo of a course that I think you guys will find useful, and it's freely available. Okay, so let's have a look at computational thinking. So where does computational thinking sit in the curriculum? Well, it's part of the newly revised technology curriculum. And the technological areas, there's 5 of them. And as you can see, 2 of them are dedicated to digital. And the one that we'll be looking at today is computational thinking for digital technology. So just in case you wasn't sure what the CT or the DT stood for, that's what they are, computational thinking and digital technologies. So just like to sort of introduce a simple definition of what computational thinking is. It's a set of problem-solving methods that involve expressing problems and their solutions in a way that a computer or a person could effectively carry out. So it's important at this stage, at this point, to say that computational thinking isn't just about using computers or writing computer programs. It's more, it's a way of thinking so that you can effectively solve problems. So it can be taught through lots of cross-curricular ways of maths and science, and Katie will particularly be unpacking it in the literacy arena. So really, we're just trying to encourage students to sort of develop logical and systematic sort of thinking skills. So there are 4 elements to computational thinking. The first one is decomposition. And what we want students to do here is to sort of analyze problems in sort of separate parts. It just makes it a lot easier to break down a problem that might be complex and make it more sort of achievable to find a solution. The second element of computational thinking is something called pattern recognition. So we're sort of surrounded in the world by patterns, things that we sort of routines that we develop and things that we do. And if you can sort of see patterns in something else, sometimes you can apply skills you've learned in one area to another easily. The third one is abstraction. And that's basically trying to simplify a problem, trying to sort of ignore the noise and just focus on just the things that are really important. And then the fourth one, which you may have heard of, is algorithms. And that's basically trying to sort of develop a way to solve a problem in a sort of step-by-step sort of logical steps of instructions that are nice and clear and easy to follow. So with computational thinking, we're just really trying to develop sort of skills in students where they can become problem solvers and sort of critical thinkers. So this is the official New Zealand description for progress outcome 1. I'm not going to read it all through now, but I have highlighted some words that are quite key here. And as you can see, some of them I recently just mentioned. So the crux really of progress outcome 1 is you're trying to introduce your students to being able to write an algorithm. And by doing that, they will explore that in non-computerized ways. So there's absolutely no need to be using a computer with the sort of younger students to achieve this. And yeah, we will be teaching them to sort of decompose and break things down so that they can develop their algorithms. And as they were doing that, they will sort of naturally do something called debugging, which we will mention quite a bit throughout this workshop. The two words at the top I do want to focus on now is authentic context and end users. So basically, an authentic context is making sure that we offer sort of contexts that are meaningful and relevant to the students, so that they can sort of make connections to sort of like promote a deeper understanding of the sort of concepts and skills that are being taught at the time. And end users, basically in digital technologies, you're always sort of trying to solve a problem for someone. And primary schools, they will generally just use their classmates to sort of test out their solutions and see if they're working. But the ultimate goal as they get older is we do want them to develop real world problems and actually go outside of the classroom to sort of fix things for people. Okay, so let's just look at sort of that idea of authentic and meaningful context in a little bit more detail. This is an exemplar that I've pulled off of the TKI site. And the authentic kind of the meaningful context for the students here is that they've been in health and physical education. They've been learning all about their body parts and practicing movements. And they've been learning the song and all the actions to it, head, shoulders, knees and toes, which I'm sure we can all recall from primary school. And the way that the teacher has tried to sort of put this into a kind of computational thinking context, she said to them, well, imagine that I'm a robot and can you teach me how to do head, shoulders, knees and toes? And basically with a robot, you know, the students need to understand that the robot will do exactly what they're told. So the instructions need to be really, really clear and simple. And I've seen this kind of idea of people pretending to be robots in lots of different ways, like teachers showing kids how to make sandwiches and so on. And it really is quite fun. Like if people, you sort of say, oh, okay, we'll put the butter on the bread or something. And, you know, the teacher can get the big block of butter and put it straight onto the bread. It's kind of a little bit silly. So yeah, I think the kids sort of quite like the idea that the robot will only do what it's told. So yeah, this idea really does focus. There's a lot of decomposition going on in here because obviously the song's got lots of lines and lots of different actions. So the kids need to think about, okay, like what should I tell the robot to do first, and then are there any parts that repeat, or you know, yeah, just and also if they do notice that the robot's not doing what they want, then they need to like think, oh, well, I'm debugging that. I need to, you know, I need to fix that and reword the instructions to the robot. So yeah, decomposition is, like I say, really, really important at this stage. So just wanted to focus a little bit as well on unplugged activities, because that example I've just shown you doesn't require a computer at all. It's yeah, completely off the computer. We do really advocate for unplugged activities. Sometimes people hear about Code Avengers and say, oh, we're an online platform. And yes, we are. We offer lots of good quality online education, but we do have a massive catalogue of unplugged activities for all ages. And we have, working for our company, a team of facilitators that go out into schools to give professional development to teachers. And they find these unplugged activities work extremely well. They're really successful. So we yeah, I strongly encourage you to use unplugged activities, and we will be sharing one with you today. One of the ones that I've found that's been really beneficial is origami. Actually, for Sarah Washbrook remembers, but quite a few years ago, I did a sort of workshop up at Remarkables High School where she used to work, so primary school, and yeah, it worked. It was really, really fun. So I just find it promotes a lot of things about computational thinking, because origami requires you to sort of work step by step through your sort of folding, and it kind of develops that algorithmic thinking. I've gone into schools before and kind of just given them origami and just to see if they can do it without instructions, and it usually, you know, they find it quite tricky and quite a challenge. But then we sort of go through and then look at like how much easier it is with good, clear instructions to follow. Origami can be quite challenging, which is great because it can teach students to sort of stay determined until the end and persevere until they found a solution. And that's a really important skill in computational thinking, to be able to fix up any errors until it actually works. And cross-curricular origami is great. It supports lots of math skills as well. And it's also a fantastic way to be creative. There's so many different possibilities, as you can see from the photograph that I have there. Okay, so we've gone through and talked about progress outcome 1, and we just have a little checkpoint here. So this is just decomposed. This is making your breakfast in 4 simple steps. So my kids love Cocoa Pops, which is why I chose these. But these pictures, you know, they can be quite, they could be quite ambiguous. And if you were just going to feed those images to a robot, what would the robot do? So there's 3 things that you need to think about, 3 possible actions that could happen. So if you want to have a go at thinking what those could be, you could put them into the chat now. So A is the robot could decide to make some toast. B, it could pour the milk all over the floor. C, it could pour the cereal over the floor. And D, it could use a dirty bowl. So, Katie, I'll just put you on the spot. What would you choose as the 3 things that might go wrong here?
I would say it could use a dirty bowl. That's pretty classic in our household. We have a very good dishwasher.
Yeah, that's right, because there is a picture of a bowl there, but it doesn't sort of say pick up the clean bowl. So yeah, that's one. Any others you might go for?
Oh. If I was to think out of the box, it could add fruit to to the cereal.
Yeah, it sure could. So yeah, if you're feeling healthy. But yeah, basically you can see here that these instructions they're really ambiguous, and one of the main things you want to make sure that your students do come out of progress outcome 1 doing is being able to be clear and precise, because things can go seriously wrong. Because we're going to move on to progress outcome 2 now, and students start to write programs, and programs will do exactly what you tell them to do. So it's really, really important to be clear and precise. So yes, progress outcome 2, very similar. You can see lots of things about algorithms again. But the big difference here that we need to highlight is when you get to progress outcome 2, not only are you doing non-computerized, i.e. unplugged activities, you also need to be offering your students a chance to put it into practice on the computer. And that will involve writing some simple programs with some outputs and sequencing, which is basically things in order. And it does talk about age-appropriate program environments, and people might be a little bit confused. They're wondering, well, what is appropriate? So both me and Katie are going to give you a couple of sort of options that you could consider. But you need to have a think a lot about, yeah, like your background, your skills, like your budgets and things that will help you select the sort of the most appropriate programming environment. I'm just going to talk to you briefly about microbits, because that's something that I've had quite a lot of experience of at primary schools. I've volunteered at both my kids' schools doing code clubs at lunchtimes, and I've just found the microbits went down really well with the kids. Probably the 3 big reasons for me why I'd go for them is I think they're fairly inexpensive compared to some other kind of kit that you can buy. They're pretty robust. I haven't had too many problems with them breaking. And as you can see for the picture, it says microbit.org, fantastic site. It's really well resourced with heaps of tutorials and lesson plans and so on. So just a couple of the activities we did here. On the left, that was a paper, scissors, rock game. Great activity because the kids can work in pairs. The outputs, basically, microbits have these LED displays where you can display all kinds of symbols. So we designed some paper, scissors, rock ones. And a really good way to sort of build in maths. You can talk about probability, because you either generate the number 1, 2, or 3, which corresponds to either paper, scissors, rock. So that's 3 possibilities. So you can talk to the kids about the probability of how often is one going to come up versus the other. So yeah, that was a fun game. They kind of shake the microbits and depending on what appears on the screen, will they can sort of fight it out and see who wins. So yeah, that was something that they really enjoyed doing. And then the one on the right, I did this possibly with slightly more experienced older students. This is really fun activity, requires some crocodile clips, some foil, some cardboard. So a real good sort of hands-on activity. And basically it's a reaction game where the kids kind of have to slap their hands down on the foil and see who's the fastest. So again, it involves some probability, because the microbit will light up to tell you, right, it's ready to go, you can slap now. And that will vary between, say, 1 and 5 seconds. So the kids don't quite know like when it's going to come. So they're sort of hands ready. So yeah, that's a really fun game. And if you really want to get stuck into maths, you can even build the program to record all the scores and how quickly the people reacted, and then you could do some statistics and so on. So there's heaps of opportunities there. Plenty of benefits of physical computing, which I've mentioned. I've just found it's really engaging. It allows students to work together and sort of promotes teamwork and sort of talking and discussing ideas and so on. It's just got so many creative possibilities. You can use lots of different materials and design lots of different things. And coming back to that word about debugging, it just gives the students heaps of opportunities to debug their programs. So there might be a block in the wrong place, or one of the values might be wrong, and so on. So they have to carefully sort of analyze their programs and try and fix them up. So just to sort of summarize before I pass over to Katie, progress outcome 2 is all about outputs, creating programs with outputs. And there are so many different outputs that you can create. There's movement ones, there's sound, there's images, text. I'm giving you a couple of examples here. So, you might have a robot that moves around and gets out of a maze or something. There's lots of programs that design these sort of geometrical shapes, which students can get very creative with. You can build sort of interactive kind of experiences. This is like a makey where the kids have sort of made like a piano. And then lastly, which is a good time to pass over to Katie, is you can combine images and text to provide an output of storytelling. So yeah, passing over to you now, Katie.
So digital technologies can sometimes be one of those tricky things to cover if it's not really a focus for your syndicate for that term, and particularly at the primary school level. And that's what makes integrating it into your literacy or numeracy programs really beneficial. And it's relatively easy. You just have to know how your achievement objectives cross over. So I think because of all the formulaic sequences and equations in some programming languages like JavaScript or Python, teachers are often able to make links between maths, particularly in strands like statistics and data representation, number knowledge and geometry really easily. But links in literacy can sometimes be a little bit more indirect. So today we're going to look at how it can seamlessly integrate into your literacy program, in particular writing. Next slide, please, Sarah. So writing and coding share many similarities, the most significant being the ability to use language to communicate ideas effectively. Both require careful planning, attention to detail, and the ability to express complex ideas in a clear and concise manner. And coding can help students develop logical thinking skills that are important for writing, as it often requires the ability to think critically and make logical connections between ideas. Coding and digital storytelling in particular can be especially helpful in improving writing skills. And these on our screen are probably quite familiar concepts to our New Zealand teachers. They are from the literacy learning progressions. So let's take a look at how they might tie into the digital technology curriculum also. Generating ideas. Coding allows students to experiment with different mediums and communication techniques, such as through images and music and animation. This means that when students tell a story through programming, there are a lot of different ways that they can start by generating different ideas. They can choose a character or a setting, and they don't have to worry about sitting down to a blank page like sometimes they do when they sit down to write a story. And user consideration is vital when making a program. Students have to think about who will be using the program and what sort of imagery and language is most appropriate to engage them. So this links in really strongly with writing for audiences and purposes. Organizing ideas is also something that can be explicitly taught through DT and literacy. The students will have to explore how to plan and structure their stories and develop characters and plot lines. And similarly in programming, students need to group and sequence blocks. They have to think really carefully about what their characters do and what happened next before they start writing. Finally, editing and bug checking is so important in coding. If a program has errors or it doesn't make sense, it won't work. So this means that students need to check that they have the right punctuation, spelling, and that sentences are concise and they make sense. Digital storytelling in particular is all about engaging the user. So using engaging vocabulary is also really important. And these are all implicit skills the students can acquire when building a storytelling program. So let's look at an example of where we can see this digital writer's toolkit in action. Next slide, please. So I'm going to be showing you today a Code Your Own Adventure program for our Year 5 Programming and Algorithms unit. So it's a standalone project where students use Scratch to make an interactive choose your own adventure story. Next slide, please. It's available on our platform for download, and we'll give you a link in a couple of slides time. You just need to sign up for a free 30-day trial. In this project, students will plan, write, and develop their stories and use conditionals and branching techniques to make decisions and trigger actions to offer alternative endings to a story. It might sound complicated now, but we will unpack it, don't worry. And finally, at the end, they will test and debug and refine their program. This project lets students explore and apply learning in a sandbox context over a series of 9 lessons. So we've made a project workbook to accompany this unit so that learning can be self-paced and be a guide to a step-by-step process for the design process. We'll explore that in a little bit more depth in a moment also. First, let's take a look at the unit outline. I will just take over screen sharing. 1 minute. Here we are. So our unit outline covers global curriculum alignments as we deliver our resources globally, and we include New Zealand standards. This unit has CTP02 and CTP03 links, and there's a lot of scaffolding for them to be ready to build more complex programs as they're pretty high level concepts. So that's later in their schooling. It's setting them up with the things that they need to understand. But there's also a lot of unplugged activities, like Sarah mentioned, that ensure that they're understanding the foundational concepts behind how programs work. The unit overview shows a quick outline of each lesson to ensure that our students, and the materials that they need or you will need for each. In this unit, we will first look at how technology has changed the way stories are told. We will explore how to start a story, how to construct a story for audiences and particular users, and how to plan a project, then a story with multiple endings. It's actually only then that we jump onto Scratch and start programming. So the focus is really on writing, and they'll start inputting their text into code, test it, edit it, and debug and reflect on their success. We are always looking for ways to improve the quality of our resources. So there are surveys attached to every unit and lesson. So you can let us know what worked well and what could be improved. So let's take a look at the first lesson. This explores the evolution of storytelling. Each lesson you can see you will have a short overview, learning outcomes, an outline of the activities, any preparation and materials you need to do, curriculum links, key vocabulary, and any differentiation for support or enrichment. and our unit slides. So as this is the first lesson in the series, we establish the key learning and context for the unit. This unit explores narratives where the users make choices to influence the outcome of a story. So we will begin by linking this concept to examples students might be familiar with, video games. And we look at that traditional structure of a story that uses a beginning, middle, and end. And then we examine how technology enables us to make stories more and more complex with that within that structure. So then we get to our alternative endings. The second half of this lesson ends with an unplugged outdoor activity where students create a story map. They draw paths with chalk on a court, making non-linear stories together. So you get that really strong idea of a story and how it can branch out to different endings really early on. We're really intentional about giving students the opportunity to learn coding concepts off the computer. And every lesson ends with some kind of wrap up, often a reflection on what we've learned and what they want to learn. There are some really fun and engaging activities in this unit, if I do say so myself, that teach writing skills in particular, such as hook writing. So where they identify and write different types of hooks. That's actually, oh, I've put it somewhere weird. So we'll just go from here. This gives them a lot of the sentences, that gives them their first sentence. So it's always a great way to ignite their writing and spend a larger chunk of time on engaging ways to do so. That gives them the tools and the confidence that they need to continue to use descriptive language in their writing. But before they can fully appreciate engaging hooks, they will experience the torture of a text that is lacking them. So this activity is a great opportunity to give students concrete examples of digital technology devices that they may or may not be familiar with. Hardware can be one of those things in digital technology that can often be assumed knowledge. So weaving this type of information into writing gives opportunities to address any misconceptions and discussion about tech. So we give them an example. You might notice over the next couple of minutes that I'm big on exemplars and examples. So for example, for a mouse, it might be click, click, click. The mouse moved erratically across the screen of its own accord. As I watched, it seemed to be frantically trying to tell me something. So we are also, particularly in writing, very conscious of learners with diverse needs. So communication in this unit isn't just written. There's also verbal storytelling activities where students are given beginning, middle, and end cards. And during this activity, we also give them sentence starters for each section. So they have the support that they need to feel successful. This split ends worksheet where students come up with alternative endings for common fairy tales is really important for setting them up to work within a familiar setting while using a branching graphic organizer. So they'll use a template that's quite similar to this when they're writing their own stories. We like to typically introduce new ideas with old concepts and old ways of doing things. So we've made sure that learning in each lesson really scaffolds their writing, giving them starter sentences, vocabulary, brainstorming opportunities, and the use of graphic organizers to plan, so that they're familiar with all the writing conventions and they have the beginnings of their story before they even think about coding. So, pick a paths. We use an example to get them excited about making their own pick a path. And kind of show them what a finished product could look like. So hopefully you can hear sound. If not, please let me know.
The first time you went camping was also the last time. The campsite was all set up with 3 brand new tents flapping in the wind. You're already getting bitten by bugs, and it's starting to get bored. Everyone else went for a walk 30 minutes ago, but you couldn't be bothered. Do you go fishing or play games on your tablet?
So this is one of our first choices that will dictate how the story goes. I'm going to put in go fishing, because why wouldn't you?
You grab your rod, some repellent and bait, and head down to the lake. You cast your rod out and immediately it starts tugging. Hard. Do you reel it in or let it go?
I'm going to let go.
Your rod is pulled out of your hands and sinks into the dark depths of the lake. You let out a roar in frustration. You hear a louder roar behind you. Do you turn and look, or do you jump in the lake?
Turn and look.
You see a huge bear hurtling down the hill towards you. You climb a tree and watch as it runs straight past the tree. When your family gets back from the walk, you've already packed up the camp. You aren't sticking around.
Hopefully that wasn't too loud for you. That was surprisingly loud. So something that I noticed whenever I ran a pick a path projects with my students was that often the story structure of beginning, middle, and end can sometimes get lost. So we really wanted to keep reinforcing that concept and make sure that the endings made sense and weren't too sudden or too unexpected for the reader. So often in the plans, we talk about how it can sometimes be disappointing in a choose your own adventure story when you make a choice, but you feel like you weren't rewarded or there are no consequences for your action. And it's just kind of a surprise. I got a lot of, you're dead. I was like, okay, great. So this program uses a range of blocks. I'll just see inside. It's got ask blocks and say blocks for the majority of the written text, broadcast blocks to trigger events, and conditional if-else blocks to identify which branch the program takes. So for example, when the users first choose go fishing, the program broadcasts go fishing, and we head down to the next set of blocks. It may look complicated for a year 5 project, but we step the students through the process of writing and programming all the way so that they can have something exciting and engaging and something that they're proud of. The way we do that is with our project workbook. So students work through in this simplified version of the design process. We use plan, build, review, which in later years becomes a bit more complex with those key steps that we're all familiar with at the later levels. But this workbook is designed so that students are able to work at their own pace and so that they're familiar with the outcomes and they can reflect on their success criteria every day. There's an opportunity for co-construction of the marking rubric, or we've tried to keep it reasonably simple, showing them what does this look like so that they can kind of tick off, yes, I've done the things that I need to be doing. We encourage students to work in programming pairs. We find that this can help with our work division, and if you have a limited number of devices and just ability differences within the class, also familiarity with Scratch. Some of them may have spent time on there and some might have no idea what Scratch is. So, but we don't just pair them up and let them go get to it. There's a whole lesson and additional resources to support effective collaboration. And we actually offer further PLD courses on this for anyone who's interested as well. Each step roughly corresponds to the lesson in the unit. So it almost works out to be 1 page per day. For example, after they've looked at how technology has changed storytelling structures, they look at a few examples on Scratch of other people's programming and outlining what worked and what didn't work. In lesson 3, where they look at purposes and audiences, they pick up their own target users for their program or readers and identify a purpose. And again, as you can see, and under everything, I've put in examples to what that could be. So purpose, for example, to scare, surprise, or delight our users. So this is to avoid blank page syndrome that we talked about earlier. And we've used a lot of planning tools like this, actually, in fact, like this. So before they even begin to program the story, they've got everything planned out. And there are options depending on the ability of the students to plan using keywords or bullet points or fully written sentences or even drawn storyboards. As I said earlier, exemplars are so important and the students, so we've included them often. However, if there's time, it always helps to model or co-construct a class example too. This project scaffolds the coding also, so that the focus is really on the writing for a purpose and an audience. So because we're assuming that students are fairly new to Scratch, we've given them blocks that they will need to make a branching story. And you can see that these little letters up here correspond directly to down here. So they know exactly where they need to put every line of text. But we also offer templates for, hopefully you can see that okay. Kind of got a bit of a small screen, but if programming time is limited or you want to focus more on the writing aspect of the unit, then all they need to do is come in here and pop in their text, and then they can focus more on the testing and making sure that their timing, and if they want to add sound, then kind of there's plenty of opportunities for them to tinker without having them having to go in and build it from scratch. So a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the actual programming aspects are done for them. But they finish off sharing their project and reflecting on the effectiveness of their programs. And if they can get a little bit of user testing in there, even better, because that just helps to make it a little bit more authentic and real. So back to the slides. Oops. This is one of the 8 new unit plans that we offer for primary and intermediate students, totaling over 80 hours of learning, with the library being updated all the time, because I love making them. We are providing free access to this unit plan, which consists of 9 lessons, and it can be used as a standalone project and doesn't require students to have access to a login to the Code Avengers platform. So the majority of the units cover algorithms and programming currently, but we have units in the network and security, data and analysis domains, with plans to cover impacts of computing and design and development also. If students are new to block-based programming, the Year 5 Cycle Control Protocol unit, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but here you go, would also be a really useful one to run prior to this project, because it equips students with the essential coding skills and knowledge necessary to really comprehend the underlying processes. So most of our units, like the Cycle Control Protocol, are complemented by online Code Avengers courses. Whoop. In addition to online learning, all of our units have detailed lesson plans that offer resources such as worksheets, unplugged activities, Kahoots, videos and games and other materials. Every lesson plan is accompanied by teaching slides, which clearly define the learning objectives and provide excellent visuals and code examples to help illustrate the concepts. Basically, we are just trying to make digital technology integration into your classroom as easy as possible. So if you would like to use it or the other units, you can follow the sign up link, and once you're logged in, you can download the lesson plans to have your own copy. You'll find a lot of great resources on the Code Avengers platform, including the PLD courses. So Code Avengers is a ministry accredited PLD provider. What makes us special is that we are PLD facilitators, experienced teachers from New Zealand, equipped with a pretty diverse range of skills. We understand that each school has its own unique focus when it comes to digital fluency journey. So our PLD could involve anything from school-wide planning and curriculum implementation to building confidence and upskilling classroom teachers, or even working closely with small groups of teachers on specific needs. Our facilitators are genuinely enthusiastic. They're very bubbly people about collaborating with you, and they want to ensure that the support they provide is not only relevant, but it's also tailored to your specific context. We absolutely love working alongside teachers in their classrooms and offering meaningful assistance and tailor-making resources whenever it's needed. Good news is that schools can apply for digital fluency PLD at any point throughout the year, and dedicated education consultants are available to guide you through the submission process and the application, and be your regular point of contact whenever you need assistance. If you're interested in learning more, feel free to reach out to our education consultants, Damon or Jordan. All right, I'll hand you back over to Sarah now. I'll let you share your screen also, because you've got a better slide.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Katie. Yeah, I think that looks a really fun unit. I've got a daughter in year 5, and I think she would love to have a go at making a pick a path program. Okay, so let's just share my screen now. So yeah, we'll just spend the little last part of the workshop just showing you around the Code Avengers platform if you've not used it before. So we have a huge library of courses. It's split into what we call the sort of junior and the pro section. So at the moment I'm on the pro, and that's kind of aimed at students over sort of 12 years of age. So I'm just going to flip the slider back to the junior program because I think we've got more primary school teachers here. And as you can see, we've got content here from ages 5 to 14. You'll see it's lots of bright colors. All these colors correspond to different areas of the digital technology curriculum. Computational thinking, it's this kind of orange color. We have sort of data analysis, it's pink. Data representation is purple. Yeah, we've got things on digital infrastructure, digital media, impacts of computing as well. So to find your way around here, depending on what kind of age students you have, you can easily filter through to the different sort of ages. And you can also, if you're interested in a particular area, you can drill down into what we call tracks. So as I've said, that corresponds to the colours. You will notice on our courses, it does say grades. So that's just because we do have a lot of American customers. But so grade 6, just take a one off. That's basically year 5. So you can sort of find your way around to find sort of content suitable for your students. And this 1 hour, 3 hours and so on, that just gives you an indication of how long the online content will take. But as Katie's shown you, we've started to wrap around our units lesson plans. So, 3 hours can easily turn into, 10 hours and so on. All right, so we've been focusing on computational thinking today, so I thought it'd be good to finish off looking at a computational thinking course. So put the filter on, and the one I want to show you is Matariki, the Maori New Year. This is a free course. We wrote this a few years ago now, actually, for the Hour of Code initiative that runs every year, so it's been used worldwide. So it's always available for free, even if your trials run out. And a few things I just want to point out to you is that all our courses have a teaching guide, and the teaching guide is broken down into lots of different sections, which I'll just run through some of the important ones for you. So straight away, you can drill down and have a look at the curriculum. As you can see, this is an ideal course for Teaching Progress Outcomes 1 and 2. And we also mentioned cross-curricular links as well. So, there's lots here you can cover for social sciences and learning languages. You'll see there's 5 tasks. Each task maybe take about 10 minutes to complete. And that's the online content. But all of our courses have activities to do as well. And we will be sharing with you this one, as I say, I'm a lover of origami, so I thought I couldn't let you go away empty-handed. So we've got an origami stars activity for you to take home with you. There's videos that sort of show the students how to follow the algorithms to get the origami stars created. And yeah, they can all make stars, and then they can put together a sort of constellation at the end. So that's one of the activities that we've got, and the other one is making kites. So the mana tukutuku. So if you're into sort of crafts and so on, you've got lots of materials lying around, that's a great activity as well to do. And as I say, each task, we've just got a little description here, a little bit of background information to explain about the task. We've got heaps of background information. Where is it? Here we go. Supporting materials. That's it. Loads of like cool videos to show students as well. So you might want to sort of run through that before actually going through the course, so that they understand about Matariki myths and so on, and they understand some terminology. We've got a good vocab section up here as well, which has got a combination of sort of digital technology words, as well as some Maori words as well. And the other thing I just want to point out to you is the little section down here we've put together, and this should really bring together everything we've been going through today. You'll see that every sort of task covers the different parts of the progress outcomes that we were talking about. So just by doing this 1 hour course with your students and in the following on activities, you'll cover algorithmic thinking, you'll give them a chance to do some debugging, there'll be decomposition and so on. So just got a few minutes left where I will just show you a couple of snippets from the course, and hopefully that will encourage you to implement this in your classroom. Obviously, Matariki is coming up. That's sort of one of the reasons why we picked it. So we all of our kind of junior courses have little characters. For primary school, the little cute ones, they kind of progress as they get older, and we do try and make sure they're representative of genders and racial backgrounds. So this is Charlie and Maya. And just down here, you'll see I've just got the sound off, but you can turn the sound on and everything gets read out to the students. So if they, if they're going to possibly struggle to read it, that can be a useful feature. We have on our courses lots of interactive widgets. We don't like kids just to sit there reading all the time, so we have interactive widgets. This one's called the dot-to-dot one. So this will be something that sort of students are quite sort of familiar with, doing dot-to-dots. And they work through to sort of create the constellations and find their way to where the sort of Matariki stars are. So yes, so it's quite a sort of an authentic experience for them. So lots of cross-curricular links here, learning about space and so on. Okay, right, this little task here, as I mentioned, we like to reduce the amount of text that we give students. So we have lots of sort of visual activities. This is quite a cool pattern matching activity. So it gets them to sort of think about patterns and sequences. And we've also got as well a good feature is these hints down here. So if students are getting stuck at all, they can go and read the hints, and that will help them out. And there is a cool I've not got it up at the moment, but there is a cool feature on our platform. Oh, here it is, the dashboard. So you can sort of see how students are progressing through the courses. If you kind of got lots of greens and they're doing well and they're not really using the hints that much, but if students are sort of making lots of mistakes and using the hints, you'll get flagged up with the red color. So that's quite a good feature that you can then sort of go and give them more assistance. This one here, I just want to point out to you as well, the little feature that you can click on the words as well. We do try and keep our vocab simple, under 2000k, the most sort of common 2000 words that are used in English language. So anything that might be unclear, we do gloss. And we have heaps of, like I say, different things like interactive widgets and sorting widgets and so on. We also include lots of videos because we know sort of lots of students like those. And this is one of my favorite sort of widgets, is like the animation widget. So the students have sort of got to look at the difference between their animation and the actual solution one. So basically with the solution, you've got to do a bit of a sort of wiggle to the right and wiggle to the left. So I need to get that into order. And then, as you can see, it self-marks and moves on. So yeah, our platform is, oh, we've got some voices here. So hopefully you guys have had fun too, and you've you enjoyed seeing that course, and hopefully you'll take it back to your classrooms. So I'm just going to pass back to Sarah now, because we'd love to answer any questions that you may have.
Oh, thank you, team. It was an amazing presentation. Just while I'm popping my slides up, if anybody who is watching has any questions from the team at Code Avengers, could you please pop the questions, just type them into the Q&A for us, and then we will ask the questions to the girls in a second. I'm just going to go back in and share my screen for people too. Whilst you're doing that, I've got a couple of quick questions whilst I was gone. I must say I was very impressed and amazed at that integration and weaving of different subject areas, particularly from being in a primary space classroom for the last goodness knows how many years myself, and seeing just how much teachers actually have to try and teach in a small amount of time, and that ability to be able to integrate and weave in all the different curriculum subject areas so it's not seen as an extra, it's a part of. I think your courses really help to prepare students and teachers for that as well, which is awesome. Something I noticed, because obviously I'm coming from a technology education hat here, so this is where I'm coming from, my lens. So question was, obviously you made a big focus, and the aim of this webinar was looking at computational thinking. How would you say that some of these resources would help with our 3DO strand, designing and developing digital outcomes? And how could it potentially help with, obviously when we're as teachers, in many of our schools, we have to assess against the curriculum strands as well. So nature and tech practice and knowledge, as opposed to progress outcomes, which are more guidelines for learning. So how would you say your resources would help to build and support technology education as a whole?
Do you want to go, Kenny, or do you want me to go? I don't mind.
Oh, I'd be happy for you to go.
Okay. Well, I know we've just recently got onto sort of creating these projects, and we do sort of try and follow that sort of technology process, that idea of the sort of life cycle. So the idea of like ideating and prototyping and and taking into account users' feedback. So I'm just in the process of writing one for would be year 9, and they get to like make a sort of an automatic confetti maker, and they get to before they sort of do that, they get to prototype and make lots of different shapes and designs and so on, and then they can get feedback from from other people about which ones they like. And we do have like our whole lessons on like usability testing and so on. And I know, Katie, I think you've done some other similar projects, haven't you, with that kind of design thinking taken into account?
Yeah. So as I was kind of talking about before, we've initially for the lower levels, we've looked at the plan, build, review. But later on, it expands out to that kind of ideate and research and, review and do all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we're trying to step them through it really logically, rather than kind of just throwing, here's the design process at them. Yeah.
Awesome, cool. Thank you, ladies. Another question. I've always been very enthusiastic with unplugged activities myself in the classroom to weave and link to the students' learning too. Obviously, in the current progress outcomes for computational thinking, really they're mentioned, like the the non-online approach, non-computerized approach is mentioned for progress outcome 1 and 2, but then it sort of disappears. Do you think unplugged teaching and learning is a good thing to continue through the year levels, or do you think it should be restricted to younger age groups?
I could say absolutely they should be used at every level. I don't think you're never too old to do something physically. And actually, often I kind of have to hold back a little bit from kind of being like, yeah, and then they all get balloons and go outside. So yeah, I mean, adults, you know, they love a bit of fun and love a bit of movement as well. And I think, you know, there's this idea that the older we get, the more time we have to spend on the computer, which is not particularly accurate from my perspective. I've actually seen really recently a couple of universities that have started using Blockly as well. So it kind of just goes to show that, you know, those basic concepts apply at every age level. Sarah, do you want to add something to that?
No, just to add about the all ages. I mean, we don't just do things with schools. We've run a few events at the Hapori Wahine through AWS. We run that was with some sort of like ladies, adult ladies, and yeah, we did all this kind of robot stacking kind of activity. They had to pretend to be like a, you know, a robot, and they just loved it. And it's just great just to help people form relationships with each other as well. So yeah, we're definitely all for it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I think often there's really abstract ideas in coding, and it can be really daunting, particularly to adults who aren't really that comfortable with tech. So being able to kind of break it down into these concrete concepts is really good.
Awesome, thank you. Well, just so you know, there's no questions popped up in the Q&A. I'll just check the Natalie just popped something in the chat for those people who are still watching, so everyone can read some of the comments that Nat from Code Avengers is popping it in there as well. So at the moment there's no Q&As, and I just want to say a big thank you to the ladies for coming on today and taking the time to actually come and support us in these webinars for TENS. As you can see on the screen at the moment, please, if you are attending the webinar today, we would love you to fill out this feedback form. This is to help and support TENS with future events and PLD things for you. So please fill this out. You can do the QR code and scan, or do the bit.ly link. I will send this out to everybody who attended today as well. So obviously we can make sure that we get this feedback from you, because I know teachers hate doing feedback forms. So we'll give you the chance to do that too. And please be aware that obviously once we finish today, the webinar will be has been recorded, and we will upload it up to YouTube. And once again, we will push that out via email, and we will also push it out on our social media channels too. So if you are interested in seeing any of our other YouTube videos and webinars, please head that way. We've got lots of different useful resources in a wide range of different areas, and of course this one's now going to be up there too. So thank you very much for linking to us today. And that's us for today. Next week, we have just hot off the press, being confirmed to have Demi Hehi coming in. He's calls himself a lead innovator / educator. I think he likes the innovator word better. He's coming from Motat, and they're going to be doing some different activities for us, looking at the things to do with the stuff you didn't know you had. It's the most interesting title I think we've had from a webinar before. So I'm excited about this one, but it'll be awesome to see how we go with this one as well. Just going to move my webinar chat box out of the way so I can see what I'm doing next. So please, this event has just seriously gone live. You can do a bit.ly link, or if you want to register at another time, you can head to the events page on the TENS website, and you can sign up to this one too. So we look forward to seeing you next month as well. So to end, we will finish with our karakia. And once again, if you wish to, you are more than welcome to join in this closing karakia. Kia amatu katoa, kua mutu mato amatu mahi, me kopapa hoki, arahina mato ka amatu mahi ano, kia whakatapua mato ki ngā kopapa, me ngā mea e whakapono. Manakitia mai mato. Kia ora, everybody, and thank you very, very much for joining us today. All the best, and we will see you again next time. Kia kite.